As we mark Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Eva Allela joins me to share her experience of how she was diagnosed, treated, and survived cancer. Kindly introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
My name is Eva Allela. I'm head of medical at L'Oreal, and I'm also a breast cancer thriver and survivor.
And kindly take us back to the very beginning when you were diagnosed with cancer. Briefly explain to us how the experience was for you.
All right. So I discovered a lump one day when I was taking a shower, and I talked to a few people about it, and most of my friends were like, oh, you guys, you need to have it checked. So I went to the hospital one day. I just walked in and booked an appointment with an oncology breast surgeon. And when we met, she checked, she did like the clinical breast examination, and she did feel the lump. And then she took my family history. Then she sent me now for a couple of tests to establish if it was just a benign lump or there was some cancer going on in there. I had a mammogram, I had an ultrasound, and then finally I had a biopsy because the mammogram and the ultrasound pointed towards a suspicious mass. Then when the biopsy was done, the results came back and confirmed that the lump was indeed a malignant one. It was a breast cancer, a type called triple negative breast cancer.
And looking back, you're told that you have cancer. What is going through your mind then?
For a moment, my mind went blank. I was sort of in a daze. Then it hit me that I have cancer. And I eventually broke down and I cried in the doctor's office. I was there with my husband, so they held my hand and they just allowed me to deal with my emotions at the time. So I thought about death and images of patients I'd seen before with cancer, especially in movies, were now running through my head, and I'm like, oh my God, this is where I'm headed. You know, I could see them without hair, throwing up and wasting away and eventually dying. So that was the first thing that went through my mind. I didn't even think that I was going to recover, to get out of this and to go on with my life. Yeah.
And as we have this conversation, we have to acknowledge that people have different unique experiences when it comes to treatment. Did you experience any challenges?
I guess I did, especially in terms of the side effects. Financial challenges I did not, because I had medical cover, so my entire treatment was covered. The challenges I experienced, of course, after the surgery, there was really nothing much. I recovered after 6 weeks and I started chemo. So this was the toughest part. The chemo lasted 6 months. I had sessions every 3 weeks. So a whole range of side effects from, I had, my body was paining, I had headaches, my jaw was paining, neck paining, I had, the inside of my mouth became sore. I became depressed sometimes. I was moody. There are times when I would be okay. At some point, my feet and my hands were getting a little bit numb from the treatment. Yeah, and I became a little bit puffy and swollen because of some of the drugs that I was on.
And I have to assume that around that time it's when you need utmost support from your family members, your doctors, you know, your friends. Take us through the experience from how was it?
People really came through for me. I will start from my immediate family. My husband was there throughout. He took me for all the chemo sessions. My sister came along for most of them. So they would leave me after settling me, and you know, my chemo starts off, they go sit at Java within the hospital until they will come and check for me, like after about an hour or two, until I'm done. Then they check me out of the hospital. So that was really comforting for me and the rest of my family, my siblings. They really came through. They were there for me. They always visited, and my friends also really were there for me. Some would, you know, come with shopping, and I received a lot of flowers and love at that time. Some friends would just come and even take over my kitchen and cook. So people really, I got a lot of love and support at the time, and I really needed it.
Looking back from 4 years ago and today, do you think the perception has changed when it comes to how we view cancer?
I would think so, because when I was diagnosed, I went online to look for anyone who has gone through that or any stories, and I couldn't find, especially from Kenya. Facebook, Instagram, there was really, people were not talking. And then so I got connected to support groups from abroad, and I saw how they were really there for each other. And I was in some Facebook groups where at night, when sometimes I had insomnia, I would just pick my phone and I find these ladies talking and discussing their side effects, and some even saying, I'm feeling this, what can I take? So it was nice, because we were helping each other and saying, yeah, when I had this side effect, this is what I did, this is what my doctor gave me, so you can talk to your doctor and see if this is something you can get. So I sat and I thought, why don't I start speaking, so that the next person who is diagnosed can find a familiar face, talking or talking something about cancer on social media. So when I finished my chemo on the last day, that is when I posted. I had been quiet about it all through, so it's only my close family and friends who knew what I was going through. So I posted, I had a t-shirt written, last day of chemo, and many people were shocked. They're like, oh, you mean this is what has been going on in your life? And you are just laughing with us here on social media, and this is what has been happening. So after that, I started talking a little bit more, and for some reason, right now, there's a lot of breast cancer survivors and advocates speaking. Like, you will not lack seeing a Kenyan woman on social media right now talking, and they're doing a lot of things. They're holding meetings and educating others about breast cancer. We now even have advocates who are championing in the policy spaces to see that there are some policies in place to help our treatment and things like that. So people are more open now. The stigma that was back then that would make people really keep quiet and shy away from speaking is less, if not there anymore. So I'm glad that we are now accepting that this is something that we can actually talk about, and by talking we are helping other people.
And having shared your experience to raise awareness on breast cancer, what are some of the myths and misconceptions that you believe need to be debunked today?
I think the first one is that sugar feeds cancer.
I've heard that a lot online.
Yes. Sugar feeds all our cells, and cancer cells are cells, and our bodies need sugar. And I think, like everything else, moderation is key. So as long as we take our sugar in moderation, then I think there is no risk of having sugar in our diet. I would say maybe avoid the processed ones, or do less if you must. And then the other myth is people believe that all lumps are breast cancer. So when somebody has a lump, they're going to panic. But actually, I think 8 to 9 out of 10 are not cancer. So we encourage people, just have it checked, and then we rule out what it is, and you move on with your life. Or if it's found to be cancer, then it can be managed. Another one, that breast cancer, back then it was a disease of the elderly, but now we are seeing younger women getting breast cancer even as young as their early 20s. So any cancer diagnosed under 50 is considered to be young. I was surprised when I'm told I'm young, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was young. But in the space of breast cancer, I was considered young. So any woman should be keen and check her breasts, because the first risk of having breast cancer is being a woman. Though men also get it, but it's, I think, 1 in 100,000 cases of breast cancer are in men.
And as we wind up the interview, I want you to talk to people about the importance of screening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the most important thing, because first, with screening you can prevent going into advanced stages, and we encourage women to screen at least the self first. Do your breast self-examination every month. Pick the same date. For a woman who is having her menses, about 9 days after day 1, because that is when the breasts are sort of settled. The cycle, has times when they're tender, they're lumpy and whatnot. So around day 9 is usually a good time to check. And for women who are not having their menses for one reason or the other, maybe contraceptives or something else, just pick a day and say, I'll be checking on the 5th of every month. So the importance of doing this breast self-examination is you will know you're normal. You will know what your breast feels like when there is nothing going on. So that's 1 month that you'll be checking, then you'll pick up something very quickly, because I know that last month I didn't feel this. And with that, you can quickly see your doctor, and then, investigations can be done. And either you'll be on the clear, or whatever the case, any treatment can be done. So if it is caught early, it's, I would say the treatment outcomes are better. The treatment may not be as intense as if it is caught later, because it means if it's early, they may just remove the lump and do your chemo and radio. And in some cases, if it's early enough, you will not even have to go through chemo. But if you wait too long because you've not been screening, you've not been checking your breasts, then one day, by the time you realize it's stage 3 or 4, whereby now the treatment is way more invasive than if it was caught earlier.